right? We're not doing a roll call, are we? Or do it just go right to it?
Yeah, you don't have to do
Um,
it. Go ahead.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you all for coming. I apologize for being frazzled. It is what it is. But I had to send out the corrected agenda because there were a few items that we had mentioned earlier that we needed to discuss, including our plan to go back into an executive session to return back. So if you've got the agenda, basically this evening's going to go with an OEM update by Committeeman DeLuca. South Essex Fire Department is going to do their operations report. I believe Chief Alvarez sent it over. I'm not sure if he's going to be present or if it's something we'll just walk through. It was sent via email. Chief Sally will give his police report narrative of this month's activities from November into December. We'll have some discussion items. Again, a sense from the email. Mr. Schuster has given us an update on what's been done right now for the MMS teacher parking, as well as a conversation around our public safety meeting for November, which happens to fall on a conflict for the Township Committee. We'll open that to the public for comment, and then we will break into an executive session for a conversation around some information that we are hoping to receive in regards to some things that are happening in our community, and then we'll come back into public to adjourn. And if everyone is okay with that, we will start from the top with Committeeman DeLuca, please. The Office of Emergency Management.
Thank you. So the two things that I wanted to talk about, one is the community emergency response teams. When we disbanded the auxiliary police, we did point to the CERT team, the CERT, as a potential avenue for people in the community to volunteer to help out in times of an emergency or when we have an event. And Chief, I'm sure you remember we had a CERT team. It was really housed at the fire department. So the auxiliary was housed at the police department and the CERT team was housed at the fire department. But it for a while there, it had somewhere between 6 and 10 members. And we would call them out when we had some issues. They would help out with traffic control. They would staff areas where we had down wires, for example, or we had a situation where we wanted to keep the public away from something that was dangerous. They were not police officers. They did not have any police power. And the idea was to see if there's any interest in bringing this back. It would need a place to be housed, and we no longer have a Maplewood Fire Department, so that's not an option anymore. So the question is, do we want to house it at the police department, which would mean that there would have to be a liaison from the police department who would be working with the CERT team. This does work under the Essex County Office of Emergency Management. They provide training. And you can just see, I sent this out earlier if you had a chance to look at it. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things that they do. Again, it's non-threatening. They don't put themselves in any kind of a danger. Again, they're just there to help and assist. Some of the things, that we give them swag. They get vests and IDs and hats. Usually we give them the baseball caps. Here you see some hard hats, depending again on the situation. But there's a real sense of teamwork and people really feeling that they give a contribution to the community in a time of an emergency. So I just wanted to raise it. We kind of lost the conversation after the auxiliary was disbanded. So I'm just bringing it up again to see if there's any interest. And Chief, whether this would depend a lot on your department putting some time and energy. I don't know if it comes out of community relations or somewhere, but so I'm just bringing it up.
Yeah, I think they worked great, especially on 4th of July. I remember them wearing I remember the bright colored uniforms, and they were good at giving information to the public. And a lot of the, you know, because 4th of July, everything was blocked off. And they were
Right.
able to direct traffic at different locations. That's why I really remember them. Yeah, you know, I can see that being beneficial for us. And, you know, this police department got plenty of room, and we got a lot of sergeants that could be a liaison to that unit, depending on where we go with it.
Committeeman DeLuca, could you, because we do have the public with us, can you just edify some of the roles of a CERT member? Like what are the kinds of things that they would do, and how are they recruited? Do they receive any kinds of training? Who manages them? Who do they report to? Who sends them out to things? Who do they respond to? So on and so forth.
So in the past, in this instance, it was the fire department. In this instance, it would be the police department. So there'd be a liaison from the police department that would be working with the Office of Emergency Management. In the situation, let's say there's a hurricane, post-hurricane, there would be cleanups. We might have roads closed. We might have barricades that get assembled. These would be folks who would stand at the barricades, helping to direct traffic, whether it's pedestrian traffic or auto traffic, at events like the 4th of July or any other kind of event, Maple Woodstock, things like that. They would be out there. They would help give directions where people could park, how people would cross. They might have some crossing duty responsibility. Again, it's they're not police officers, they're civilians. They are trained by the county. During COVID, the county did not do any training, but at our last OEM coordinators meeting, they did say that they would be willing to do training again. There's no payment involved. The apparatus, the equipment, the vest and all that, we give them for free. They are called out when it is deemed to be necessary, and that would be done by the liaison, the chief, and the OEM and OEM committee and things like that.
And they're labeled that, you know, you would not mistake them as police officers.
No, not at all.
Not at all. Not even close.
I mean, it's essentially they almost look like a crossing guard. They have that, you know, that sort of neon look.
Right. And then we would just put out, I guess we would put out some information to recruit through the police.
Yes.
department.
Yeah, we would get stuff. I mean, there's stuff that's out there that sort of is boilerplate on how to recruit people, and then we would, you know, adapt it for our community. But yes, it would be an open sort of recruitment process. If people were interested, they would sign up. We would have a couple of meetings, and if we saw that there was a there, we would arrange for the trainings. And then I think there's, you know, if I remember correctly, they probably had to meet like once a year or something like that, just maybe to do some ongoing training. But now with Zoom, you know, everything's different. You can do that stuff so easily now. Before it used to be on site, but, you know, so there may be a bit of ongoing responsibility in that regard.
Is there like a certain number or a number we're shooting for as far as volunteers?
I'm not sure if there's a minimum. I don't think so. And I don't think there's a minimum or a maximum. I think in reality, though, it has to be enough people so that they feel that it's a team. It can't be like a couple people. So I think we would probably try to shoot for somewhere between 6 and 10. Or even, you know, even more. It could be, you know, 6 and 15. I mean, I don't think there's a limit as long as we feel we can use them.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a lot of our big events are back now. And this year we're going to plan for a big July 4th celebration like we used to have. It's been a long time since we've done that. So I think it could be really, really useful. And I know that there are some people who have expressed interest in volunteering for the town in this capacity. So I think it'd be great.
So
And would this capacity also be for 18 and older, or would there be options for youth?
That's a very good question. I I don't know the answer. In the past, it has been 18 and over, I think, for liability issues, because we're sending them out. I mean, they generally have to get to the place where we're sending them. So they, they tend to drive or are able to be, able to walk as an adult without parental supervision. So it might be, and we'd have to check with the county, but it might be 18 and over, just for liability issues. So I would suggest, if we're interested in doing this, if the chief identifies someone, then I could meet with that person. We could sort of plot out a way that we could go forward and talk to the county and then come back and report it the next month.
I think it would be great, especially with like Mayor said, so many activities coming back that we had before, not to mention the fact that we have little areas of concern that we've had in the past, in particular, like some of our crossing guards in some places, if that's a way we could utilize these people and get back to the community without horrible expense or liability issues, that might be another way of using them as well. So I'm 100, I would love for you to hear more about that.
Okay.
And if Chief Sally is on board, yes, if you could pass along a name to Committeeman DeLuca, that would be wonderful.
Okay. Chief, you just let me know who you want to assign to this, and then I can sit down with you and them if you want, and we can talk this through.
Okay, no problem.
Do you need this on the agenda for the 17th for TC?
I
No.
don't think so. I think we should just percolate it a little bit here, and
Yeah, you can report on it as,
Report back on it, yeah.
as you're ready. Yeah. Okay, great. Awesome.
All right, and our secondary thing was also the emergency operations plan.
yeah, this
As
was more just information. And again, Chief, I want to get support from one of your folks. We every 4 years we have to put it together an emergency operations plan, and this is it. It's a pretty detailed document. It is over 1,000 pages, but it is our plan in case of any emergency. And quite honestly, during COVID and some other emergencies that we've had, we've gone to the plan just to use, just to check out things on how we do things. So Chief, I would like to be able to work with Detective Delias, and he and I will call together various department heads. We assign what they're called annexes. So you have a medical annex, you have a public safety annex, you have a shelter annex, you have a health annex. So we would bring different department heads together. And as we've done in the past, they are responsible for reviewing and updating that section and rewriting it if necessary. So if he's available to work with me on it, we can get this done. It takes months. It's sort of like a Sustainable Jersey thing. And then it has to be to the county in the spring and to the state police right after that.
So do we have a deadline that we need
I
to
think it's
submit
June
this by?
1st, June 1st. Has to be finished and approved at the counties and to the state on June 1st. So
So it's gonna be multiple submissions in case.
yeah,
Okay.
hopefully not. Hopefully we'll get it done the right way, but yeah.
First draft and a final, okay?
So Chief, just let me know if that's okay, and then I'll work with Christopher.
Okay, no problem.
And that's all I have on that.
Great, thank you.
Um,
Thank you for that. Is Chief Alvarez here?
Now I can give a quick report.
Would you
on
be able to
some
do that
things.
for
Yeah,
House
sure.
Ethics? Thank you.
I think the most important thing that I want to share with you is that, we have been operating under the South Essex Fire Department since July 1st. And at the time we were short-staffed, so we were not able to provide emergency medical services in Maplewood through the fire department. We received them from the hospitals. We received most of our support was from the South Orange Rescue Squad. But as of October 1st, we're back. The fire department is back providing EMS. We're doing roughly about 125 runs a month. So for October, November, and December. And according to Deputy Chief DeMartini, this is about where we were pre-pandemic. It is being used, and it is something that we want to continue doing. And I just wanted to let everyone know that that is working well. On the bigger global issue of the South Essex Fire Department, we're not having, we have really very few problems in merging two departments. Things are working very well. We're continuing to provide mutual aid, receiving mutual aid when we have fires. So everything is going, as planned. On the administrative side, we're still working out some of the build out of the operation. We had some delays due to Social Security and pensions. And so, we're still running the firefighters through each town's individual payroll systems. But that will all change in July when we have exhausted these waiting periods and we're able to move everybody over to one single payroll of the SEFD. So we are still running. We're doing fires, we're doing emergency calls. In Maplewood, we're doing EMS. We're still doing goodwill calls. Those are things like going to block parties and community events and things like that. So everything's working well. We have one fire chief now, Chief Sullivan of South Orange is on leave right now. So Chief Alvarez is the fire chief. He has moved to an office in South Orange. That's the headquarters. And Deputy Chief DeMartini is also there. So that's the headquarters. We have Station 2, which is Boyden Avenue, and Station 3, which is the Dunnell Road old fire department, our old fire department headquarters. I also just want to mention that I did speak to Bob Conklin. He's our fire official, and he's responsible for inspections. And we approved the hiring of Jade Babcock as a fire inspector. So she'll be coming on. And she's very aware of Maplewood. She's been to some of the events here we've had. So she knows Maplewood. She is actually a fire captain in Lodi, and she works for Rutgers doing some work there on fire prevention. So she's well-versed. She'll be doing the inspections along with Bob Conklin. And I want to thank Bailey. You solved the problem we were having. We weren't sure how we were going to do the administrative side of the real estate inspections. Every time a house is sold, they have to get a smoke detector and a carbon monoxide detector inspections. And typically that was done through the fire department. That we thought it was going to be done through the building department, but Ms. Barnett has worked with Mr. Conklin, and they have now set up through GovPilot a process where those appointments can be made right online by the realtors. So that was sort of the beauty of getting GovPilot, so that we could cut out some of that processing. So that's working well, and we're moving forward with that. So our inspections are good, our fire department's good, and all's well.
Awesome.
I
Thank you
think
so
I've
much.
exhausted those two reports.
Great. Thank you so much, Committeeman Luca. Chief Sally, would you like to give us a report about our police department?
The Maplewood Police Department is committed to the safety and service of our community. The concerns of the citizens of our town weigh heavy in our decision-making. We want everybody to feel safe. The increase in major crimes in the area makes everybody feel uneasy, which is natural. As a leader of the police department, I have implemented measures to combat these issues. I want to support the victims of these crimes, and we as a community must look out for each other and protect each other. Transparency between the police and the community will continue. The department works to provide important information to the public, but mistakes sometimes happen. On January 4th, 23, at 0120 hours, A robbery with a handgun took place on Jacoby Street near the Wawas. The resident was struck with a firearm by an unknown man, and his wallet was removed from the vehicle. In this incident, a NICS alert was not sent out. It was a mistake of the Maplewood Police Department, and it has been corrected. With that correction, if incidents that took place after that, the NICS alert has been sent out. So we have corrected that problem. There has been no procedure change regarding NICSL. We will continue sending the significant incidents and closures and fire incidents out on NICSL. So what we're doing now to combat this uptick in crime, as chief, we implemented a few things. One is a daily crime analysis meeting to identify patterns and areas of concerns. Monthly supervisor meetings providing administration expectations to supervisors. Daily patrol shift lineups with up-to-date data and details. Increased patrol presence. High visibility details in regions identified by data. And Detective Bureau working with multi-jurisdictions in investigating crimes. We also request community involvement, as we have stated before in past meetings, as far as, we had community identify lighting issues in certain areas, which we have done surveys, and we have reported that to PSC&G. Residents have been helpful with cameras in the area, such as the Ring doorbell. Also, we ask that residents check their surroundings when they're coming in and out or whatever they're doing. And also, we have had rummaging of vehicles and vehicles stolen. So we ask that not leaving a vehicle running unoccupied assist us too, just to name a few things. So I think we have a good plan with what we're going with. One robbery is too many. It doesn't help people just for me to talk about stats. And but if you're a victim of a crime, you don't want to hear stats. You just don't. You don't want that. You don't want it to happen. So my main thing is prevention. With the high visibility details, hopefully we're out there, deterrent, prevent some of these crimes from happening. So we have other things in the works that I don't want to discuss publicly, but we have things in the works that will hopefully combat some of these issues we're having with these recent robberies. So with that, I'm going to move on to the police metrics. Okay, so with the police metrics, we go back to November because we're always behind. So with the November, first I'm going to start with the overtime comparison. All right, so we have been consistent with overtime comparison for the year. So we're still going down. Overtime hours, as far as our watch commanders and our dispatchers, are down by 373 for the year.
Excuse me, Chief Sally. Bailey, is there any way possible you could share those documents on your screen? My computer is still frozen and I haven't been able to pull them up. But in case the public would like to see what Chief Sally is alluding to.
Yes, I would need to pull them up quickly, but let me see if I have them. I think I was copied on those.
Thank you.
It should be the UCR report that the chief is referring to at the moment.
No, I'm looking at the overtime.
Oh, yeah. And then
Overtime.
eventually you're going to be looking at the UCR report. Yeah.
I don't know that I was copied on those, but if they can be forwarded to me, then I can share them now. Or I might just not have them at the top of my inbox.
Yeah,
I have it. Do you want me to put it up?
Would you, Yeah, would you be able to share, Vic? I appreciate it.
Yeah, I have the
You're just
overtime
frozen.
report. It's the overtime.
Yes,
Okay.
Okay, right. Okay, so if you look at the total hours, we're down 373, decrease in overtime hours. That's for watch commanders and dispatchers. Okay, and then you move down to police overtime. We are down, if you see that number, 3.75% decrease in officer overtime. And then you move to salaries, that's all contract, so that's raises mostly in there. So that's why you can see that increase. That's pretty much the overtime report. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to the November monthly report. Okay, so the November monthly report, in November, we did have one robbery in the month of November. That was okay, that was on North Terrace and Edgewood Place. Person walking home and was and a robbery took place. That was one robbery we had. If you look at this is the UCR report, robberies, one, and one's from let's see the okay. Let's make sure I have the right report here. Well, let me move to that. I wasn't on that page.
Oh, I'm sorry. What page you want? Is there another page?
I'm on the actual monthly report on page 1, but I'm not on the UCR. Hold on. Let's see.
Oh, sorry. I'll get there. Okay.
Yep.
it's that one.
Excuse me, everybody, for making you dizzy. This one here?
Yes.
All right.
That one. Right. So you see the that's the one robbery in November. We have 4 burglaries in November. If you look at 2021 and 2022 in November, we have one in 2021 November and one in 2022 in November. 0 aggravated assaults in 2022 in November, 4 burglaries in 2022 compared to 5 in 2021. And thefts are close to the same. Auto thefts are lower. And again, when I talk about the stats, you know, if you're a victim of a robbery, you know, one robbery is too many. But we did start our initiative in November. So you do see small decrease in certain things and kind of like on the same with certain things. So we're staying the course with that. So that's our UCR. That's our major incidents for December. Okay, so let me move to page 2. Okay, larceny thefts again. You know, that's shoplifting or package thefts that we get, and so on. 3 auto thefts. Unsecured keys inside, still unsecured, all 3. Okay, 24 Part 1 offenses reported to New Jersey State Police. The Detective Bureau successfully cleared 4. All right, we're gonna move down to that graph there. Okay, so November, 1 robbery, 4 burglaries, 16 thefts, 3 auto thefts. If you look at the auto thefts, that's less than that's a decrease from all the other months. So you see, you know, February we had 13, March we had 16, July we had 10. Now we're down to 3. So that's you know, so he's decreased, and that's part of some of the details that we have been doing. Okay, page 3. All right. These are Part 2 crimes. Okay, so this is our frauds, our criminal mischief, drug offenses, harassment, firearm investigations. Okay, so that's, that's people applying for firearms. So, we're kind of, criminal mischief seems to be going down a little bit with that. Okay, go to the next page. Then we can go on to, we can just keep going down to the UCR at this point. Okay, UCR for November, again, one robbery, one assault, 3 burglaries, 16 thefts, and we don't have it here, but I do have the UCR for December, where we have 0 robberies. So we had 0 robberies in December. And then January, up to this date, we had the 1 on Jacoby Street. So that's pretty much the report for the monthly report for November.
Thank you, Chief Sally. I believe that one of the discussion items that were coming up is going to be about the teacher parking, and I know that our interim administrator Schuster had mentioned that signage had been put up in and around Maplewood Middle School for those 21 spots, if I'm not wrong, there. And are they permanent signs? Is it the paper signs? What exactly is being done over there so the teachers know exactly where to go?
Yeah, I believe they're temporary. They're there temporarily, and then there's no ordinance for it yet, so we can't enforce it, but it's there, I guess, to get ready for it.
Okay, and Kritzen had mentioned to us in the last public safety meeting that the process basically for those teachers who are interested in having access to those parking spaces is to go to town hall with your teacher ID, proving that you are a Maplewood Middle School teacher, and get the actual pass that you need to have hanging or stuck to your car, so that you will be allowed to park there. Did we decide whether or not it was going to be for a certain amount of time in the day, or is it always Monday through Friday during the school year that these spots would be unavailable for anyone other than Maplewood Middle School teachers and staff?
I think we decided on school days, Monday through Friday, or any school day that's teacher parking. And there's similar signs we have now on Maple that says teacher parking only on school days. So in the summer, commuters park there, and that would happen to this place too. Okay,
good, because there was a conversation around if those spots are not taken by like 11, then the public could use them. All right, thank you. The second item on discussion was this coming November 7th, we had originally scheduled a public safety meeting for that time, but that happens to also now be our township committee meeting. And so we need to decide whether or not we're going to be shifting it to either another day, a day or two later, or another week, if it's as long as it's on conflict with anything else, so that Assistant Administrator Barnett can get those on the calendar and noticed out to the public. I don't have a particular problem with any of the shifts. I'm just worried that we'll run into other meetings that we, the members of this board, are also sitting on. So I would like to take a look at it and then come back with the answer for that, because we do have elections that day and we're still planning to meet. But we're looking at the 14th. Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, the 14th.
So.
Yeah. We're gonna have to make it work. I mean, I'm not in favor of canceling this meeting.
No.
Yeah. This is a too important meeting to cancel, so we'll make it work. We'll find a date.
Yeah, so we'll report back to you, Assistant Administrator Barnett, and make that happen. All right. At this point, unless there are particular things that need members of this committee may feel to bring up right now, I would like to open it up to the public comment. If anyone has a comment they'd like to share with the town, oh, I see hands up already. Assistant Administrator Barnett, would you be able to help transfer these people over to panelists so they can make their comments?
Yes, first up we have Soma Justice.
Hello, everyone. Joining as a member of the public, but really joining as a member of the police board. So thanks for having me. I have a few things that I want to bring up, all on behalf of the police board, so not as a member of the public, to be clear. So first of all, I think last year, so we had started, members are always of the police board are always attending this meeting just to make sure there's nothing that we miss in terms, I know like most of the people on this meeting are also a part of that meeting, so nothing.
Tasha, I don't mean to interrupt, but could you introduce yourself and tell people who maybe don't know who you are?
Oh, sure. I'm Tasha. I am now the recording secretary of the Maplewood Community Board on Police. So I think previously we had been on the agenda to provide an update. I don't think we need to do that, but just so you all know, we are still scheduling somebody to attend these meetings every single month. So in case that is useful, you know, again, we don't need to be a panelist. We can sit as members of the public, but you should know that we're going to be here. So that way, again, in case it's useful to bring us up for any particular discussion. That was number one. And then I had a couple of things on the uptick in crime. I hadn't planned to talk about this originally, but I had several discussions with residents over the weekend. And I think as we look ahead to Chief Sally's town hall in a couple of weeks, I wanted to bring a few ideas up as I was hearing them from residents. The first is, I appreciate everything that you said at the beginning about, you know, some of the changes that you've made. I think to the extent, or my recommendation, to the extent that you feel comfortable providing even more details. I mean, I'm hearing from residents saying like, I'm not seeing any more patrols. Maybe it's not patrols that you're doing. Maybe you've got other stuff. I know some of it's tactical, that you don't want to share all of the details of what you're doing, but if there's any more detail that you can provide, because I think from residents' perspective, it feels like nothing has changed. They're not seeing new lights yet. They're not seeing more cars. Again, there probably are more cars. And we know that you've been talking to PSE&G, and I know that things are in the works, but as you noted, you know, one burglary, one armed robbery scares everybody. And suddenly the next day, nobody wants to walk down the street by themselves. And then they're like, what about all the things that they promised? I haven't heard anything. Things take time, but I think to the extent that we can keep updating people and providing them details on what's happening, I think would help a lot. So that was the first. And then the second is providing context on some of the things that are happening. So for everybody else, except for Chief Sally, because he was on the email that I sent earlier, and for members of the public, I sit on the data subcommittee of the Maplewood Community Board on Police. We've been focusing on juveniles and school data. I recommended to the police board, they all agreed that I shift my energies to maybe doing some additional data analysis around these robberies and burglaries, including maybe helping do some mapping and maybe doing some longer sort of backward looking data analysis. I sent an email to Officer Jones and to you, Chief, and DC Malloy with some of the requests that I'm looking for. I'm hoping that we can get moving on that sort of quickly so that way you can be armed with some of that as you head into your town hall in a couple of weeks. So just putting an additional plug for that here, but also for everybody else to know that I plan to work on this again to help provide a little bit more context for us and for members of the public. And then the last thing on the context, you know, earlier in the spring when we were heavily addressing auto theft, I think one of the things that was really helpful was some of the data that we were getting back from the state and all of the conversations that were happening on a state level around auto theft so that we could feel like, okay, we're not alone, not just us, it's not just Maplewood that's being targeted, but this is happening everywhere and this is what's happening on the state level. This is how we're taking some of their recommendations. This is how we're coordinating. I don't know if you're having similar conversations around this uptick in robberies, but what I can, you know, I did some quick data analysis, and hopefully we'll see the numbers go down, but our numbers are high per capita this year. Definitely higher than the state average from a couple of years ago. And we don't have the state average from 2021 or from 2022 yet, but I'm sure the state has that number. And if we had that context, we could put some of that into context to understand where we're sitting, and if we do have like a massive problem relative to everybody else, or if this is something that's a little bit bigger than us. Again, I think that helps us as we start to grapple with what's happening in our town. That's all. Next.
Thank you, Ms. Spiker.
Chief, I wonder if Chief, if you could, the data drives some of your decisions, and I know you made some changes with, sort of your roll call and you bring your key staff together to look at the crime scenes. Could you talk a little bit more about what changes you've made as far as the analysis of some of this stuff?
Right. So one of the major changes is we reduced our traffic unit, and we put them in regular patrol. So we have more officers there. Also, we had a couple admin officers that we put back in patrol, allowing us to have more officers on the road. Also, what we do is we have a monthly meeting with the supervisors where we map and we get the data from where these crimes are occurring, and we send our officers to that location. Also, the Detective Bureau can see where this cluster of, it doesn't have to be a robbery, it could be a theft, is happening, and maybe there's something else going on there. So it might be the person's what the person does. He just, we might find a guy who just finds this area to take laptops out of cars. So if we can identify that, we can post our patrols over there to handle that. So in some places it's just quality of life issues that we have to address, because we get so many calls in that area and we have to give extra attention. So myself and the Detective Bureau, Deputy Chief, we meet pretty much every other day discussing where the crime trends are going, and that's where we need to move our details to, where the data is telling us to go.
And Chief, do you get information from surrounding towns and the county and the state, and is that part of your analysis?
That is correct. And so we reach out definitely to Irvington Police Department. They're having similar things on their border to us. So our Detective Bureau meets with them, and I actually spoke to the director, and we have some things we're trying to work out.
Chief, what about some of the state data? Are you getting some of that, at least, if not directly from the state, through the county?
Yeah, so the state data, I attend, I can't think of the name of the meeting, but they give out state information. I think, so I do get information from those meetings as well.
Maybe for the next meeting, we can put some of that together and make it available to the public and share it with them, so that we can create some sort of context here, because people don't have a context, right? So when they look at the UCR that we just shared, and it shows one number that stuck out on me, a 280% uptick in burglaries, that's alarming, right? And we want to know, what's the context when we compare ourselves to our surrounding towns and we look across the state.
I'm telling you, residents on Jacoby are like, why is my street being targeted? Why is it my street? And
Sure.
I think that there are feelings that maybe there's something special going on, but maybe there isn't. But hoping to provide some of that context, I think would be helpful.
Right. And then the other thing that you mentioned, Ms. Pikarts, is the lighting. When we did the town hall a couple months ago, we promised the public that we would do a lighting survey. I know, Chief, you've been talking to PSCNG to improve lighting in those areas that were identified during the town hall by residents. But to our assistant administrator here as well, Ms. Barnett, I think we talked about setting up a way that people can identify for us areas with poor lighting where they feel unsafe. Doesn't necessarily have to be in a place where there was a crime reported or happened, but just generally town-wide, and that we would create sort of a lighting survey of the entire town. Have we been able to set that up maybe through GovPilot or one of the other new, more interactive, effective ways that our website allows us to do?
Yes, so anything that addresses either township facilities or a lack thereof, or in this case, something that the township rents from PSCNG and then provides, like lighting, is something that we track through our report of concern feature, and that's interdepartmental. So that's something that's viewed by code, DPW, engineering, administration, health, and it's looked at from a holistic lens if it's filed as a general complaint. So if anybody has any of these places that they want to share, on our website, under that report of concern feature in the top right-hand corner, they can submit that with the location, and we'll be able to tag it to a map and create sort of a visual of where those incidents are occurring.
And maybe we can share that in the chat function here for everyone. And Chief, did you want to remark on your discussions with PSCNG in this regard thus
Yeah,
far?
so we don't contact PSCNG directly. It goes to engineering. And engineering, I was part of the, I got a piece of the email that they were in talks with PSCNG. So I know that conversation has happened, but the police department doesn't speak directly with them. It goes to engineering, and engineering contacts, so engineering usually contacts us. Since we're out there, we'll go out and do a survey. We'll collect information, poll numbers, and what's wrong with the light, and does it need more lighting? And then we send it over to engineering, who contacts PSCNG.
And I think there was a request for, I think there was a light that was broken, and then there was a request to put a new light in, and maybe Ms. Barnett can check with engineering. I think it was on Jacoby where the bend is there.
Right.
Yeah, across from the park, it's dark. Yeah.
Can I make one more comment?
Sure.
The only other thing, and again, you don't have to address this now, but I think it would be useful if you addressed it at your town hall in a couple of weeks, however you want to, which is, I think, with all of this increase in crime and increase in patrols and all of that stuff, and it seems like everybody's aligned that that's the right way to deal with this issue. I think we'd be remiss to not also make sure that we're finding the right balance of that with all of the momentum in terms of how we're rethinking policing in this community, which is the reason why the police board was created in the first place. And so, as we think about not veering, we can increase patrols, but hopefully we're also keeping in mind our promises to not over police these communities, and to not unnecessarily stop people, and to not go back to the days of very, aggressive, proactive policing. I know in personal conversations with you that that's not how you operate, but I think that the community needs to hear that.
And just for the record, you made a reference to town hall. Are you referring to the Hilton Neighborhood Association meeting?
Several. There've been, 4 or 5.
No. You're talking about an upcoming. I know the chief.
An upcoming one. Yeah.
No,
Chief
aren't you
is gonna
doing
be
a
on the
meet chief
19th.
Sally kind of thing?
What was that again? I'm sorry.
I thought I saw that you were hosting like a meet Chief Sally sort of thing. Am I remembering that correctly? Like on the 19th?
No, that's the Hilton Neighborhood Association meeting on the 19th. It's
Oh,
to meet Chief
sorry, I
Sally.
misread that.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment yeah, that's why it's, you know, we call it a high visibility detail. So it's just getting our units out there and be seen. And it's not more so, you know, like you said, days in the past when we had a street crimes unit and undercover and all that stuff. So I think you know, if you see an officer on the corner, you know, it's a deterrent, hopefully, to prevent some of these things from happening.
Okay, we should move along because we have other members.
Yeah, we have a few more people in their chat. So just
Yep.
mentioning that. Ms. Barnett, could you bring over our next panel or next resident?
Yes, next up we have Heather Soslavsky.
Good evening. So just based upon what was just said, do I understand correctly, you want us to submit reports online for each and every block with inadequate lighting? I'd take that as a yes, Mr. Daffis, given the nod. Okay,
Sorry, I was unmuting myself. Yes.
all right. I've asked for a number of months now that long-term historic data be provided, not just 1 year over 1 year. I'm asking that again. I think that goes along with everything you're discussing and continues to be completely ignored. It's been months that I've asked for this on numerous occasions. It's been months that everybody nods in agreement. It's been months that nothing changes. Similarly, I've asked that the social worker description be posted to the town website for months. It goes along with everything you were just discussing about what policing looks like in our town at this time, what we want it to look like and what it's looked like historically. The public needs to know what's available. And if we don't, then it's not appropriately used. Similarly, there's been talk about a public campaign about appropriate versus inappropriate calls to the police. And of course, that continues to be a need here. But what began the meeting, to some extent, at least Chief Sally's statements, and actually the colloquy that occurred at the beginning of the meeting, has to do with the Lightning Brook neighborhood. This incident that was referenced was not the first time that this has occurred. It is not the first failure to send a nixle for Lightning Brook residents. You say you corrected the problem with not a whole lot of clarity on what that means, but that correction miraculously occurred within 24 hours when the other side of town needed a nixle. You've met with us previously. Many residents have repeatedly said communication is the #1 issue, that we want to protect our families and we want to know when it's unsafe to leave our homes because something's happening right then and there. We've mentioned nixle alerts and a working scanner, that both are important. But here we are with neither, again. You told us there would be more patrols in our neighborhood. We don't see it. Many of us have cameras. We can tell you where your officers are and where they're not. They're here sitting in parking lots. That's where they are, they're parked. Maybe they're slowing down traffic, but they're not patrolling here. They're barely here at all. So we can keep having these neighborhood meetings in these town halls. We can keep having a scanner that streams so poorly that no one can understand what's being said. We can keep having everyone say they'll get back to us, or something can happen. Because your actions count more for us than your words do. And Chief, you were the liaison to the CBOP when we were raising issues there. You had a community meeting with several different neighborhoods, and for Lightning Brook, you publicly discussed what our concerns were. And for every other neighborhood, you said it was confidential. I'm not referring to you specifically, Chief Sally, but you were the liaison at the time. Our concerns are discussed publicly. Everyone else is confidential. We are treated very, very differently. They have a attempted burglary, nixle, so people know something's happening right at this moment in your neighborhood. We have a robbery where someone's injured in their own driveway, nothing. And again, on the very same street where we've complained that that's happened before. Literally 1 year ago, we were having almost the very same conversation we're having right now with this town. We do not need more words. Our neighborhood needs more action. We no longer believe your words. at least I speak for myself and my family, we don't believe you anymore. We came to you repeatedly as a township and as a police department. Not one of you has shown us through your actions that your words have any meaning. Have a good night.
Do we have the social worker information up on the website? I thought that was done.
I believe the description is up there of what her role is, but I believe what Ms. Seslowski was talking about was some kind of descriptor as the best of practices, how people who would call for the social worker could utilize their services.
Ms.
We
Berman?
have that listed as well. It's under our public health and social services, as opposed to it being under public safety, since it's operated under the health department as a program instead of PD. So that might be why some folks aren't seeing it. But I linked to it in the chat.
Thanks. And is the scanner currently working?
From my knowledge, it is.
Right. And
First I'm hearing about it not working.
right. I haven't received any issues about the scanner recently since we took it over from fire, and Officer Jones is making it work. He's the IT guy, and we haven't had any issues about that. So small progress, but some progress. Okay, next comment. Actually, before we go to the next person, I see Miss Eustace has her hand up. Is it Martha? Did you want to make some remarks before we go to the other members of the public, or do you want to wait until after?
I can wait until after. That's
Okay.
fine. Yeah.
Okay, next up we have Lark Lizardo.
Mr. Lozardo, you're muted.
Still muted.
Okay. Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
How are you? My name is Lark Lizardo. I live on Henry Street, right off of Brown. And I wanted to say a couple of things. I am concerned with Jacoby Street. My husband came to a meeting a couple of months ago, and he brought up the fact of the lighting situation, that there really is hardly any lighting from Brown Street all the way down to Boyden Avenue. I have no shame in saying it's a personal concern I have. My 12-year-old autistic son has to leave our home at 6:35 in the morning every school day to catch the bus on Jacoby and Boyden. The bus comes anywhere from 6:45 to 6:50 in the morning. There are about 4 to 5 other students who have to wait at the same corner. At that meeting, Chief Sally did say that he would have a patrol car go over there. And there is a patrol car that does go over there about once, twice a week, not consistently on a regular basis. But my son has reported that there is a patrol car there. And my husband, when he's able to drop our son off, has seen a patrol car there. So thank you, Chief Sally, for that. But there is still a very, very high concern. These children are walking alone in the dark on a desolate street that seems to be a prime area for the crime in this neighborhood. And as his mom, I am unable to walk him to school. I leave at 6 in the morning, and so he has no choice. We have no choice as residents to have our son walk alone in the dark to catch the bus to take an hour to South Orange Middle School. So we are looking at you guys. So thank you, Chief Sally, for the beginning of something. The lighting we think is a real important issue. I believe it's such an important issue that I'm planning Saturday afternoon to canvass that block and my block to leave notices on houses asking my neighbors to leave their porch light on for my son and everyone else who's leaving for work and coming home in the dark. I feel that my child is at risk. We're at risk right now in this neighborhood. This seems to be where the crime is happening most of the time. And so I just want you to have a face to what's going on every morning. In the dark, there are children walking on Jacoby Street. And I just want you, please, if you can just keep that in mind as you make your decisions and move with improving things. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Zara. I guess it's a question more for engineering and public works versus PSC&G, but what's the typical turnaround when we ask for the lighting ought to be done if there's, say, a lamp out? What is the typical turnaround time for that lamp getting repaired? Because it seems like these are things that have been repeated and aren't getting fully addressed in a timely manner. And if this is more of a question for engineering,
So there's three factors. A light out generally can be repaired pretty quickly. The turnaround time can be, a week to 10 days because it's just a matter of one worker going up and changing the light bulb. The second one is a changeover from a low sodium to a higher intensity bulb, which is a little more complicated because they generally do that in a series. So they wouldn't necessarily just do that for one light. And then the third is when we have to get a new light post put on a pole. That takes a little more time because that's a number of crews that have to go out there and then ordering the part. So I think we need to touch base again, and I'll take responsibility as the chair of engineering and public works, touch base again with our engineer and find out what they've done with PSC&G. I know there was some talk. I don't know. I haven't seen the analysis from the police. So we don't know if there needs to be upgrades. I know there was a request to put one new arm with a light on that we talked about before, but I don't know about the other lights. So we'll have to figure that. We'll have to get that information.
all right, thank you.
Yeah. Committeeman DeLuca, would you kindly loop me in, because I will just go to our liaison and make this work. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
The movement on this. Nothing has been done. Nothing has been done. Clearly, it hasn't been done. And people keep asking about it. And like one of the comments, we keep talking, and nothing has been done. So let's get it done.
All right. So I think I believe we have one more person in the public comment.
Yes, next up is Ted Dorsett.
Unmute, start video. How are you?
We're good, Ted.
Okay, we're okay.
Okay.
We're okay.
There's two questions I have. One is I would like to join the CERT committee or the CERT team. But the question that I have is if there's an event that's happening, will I be penalized if I'm not available for that event, or if something goes on?
No.
Okay.
As long as you're not going to a Dallas game, then no.
Well, I'm a Denver fan, so.
Oh, okay, all right.
I won't be
Not
out
keeping it in the family, all right.
The second question I have, and it involves, this is the whole town, is I've recorded things and sent things into the police for people running stop signs. Like the whole town is basically stoptional. People, they slow down, they run, they run the stop sign completely. Over here in Hilton, of course, it's a cut through from Irvington, from Springfield Avenue, people trying to cut through and beat lights and everything. So you get a lot of people running stop signs. there's even been accidents at the new intersection with all of the four-way stop at I get Newark and
Rutgers.
Newark and
We're Rutgers or Burnett.
and then Burnett and Rutgers. I mean, there's accidents from people just running the stop signs. I've recorded people sat on the side and recorded people on my phone and sending videos, but then I get told, please don't send these, don't do this. This is not how we're supposed to operate. But I mean, nothing's being done to have someone there to say, you know what, we're enforcing these stop signs and we need people to stop there. You know, there's too many kids in the area. There's too many people on bicycles, electric bikes, on scooters, you know, I mean, both electric and gas powered scooters, you know, so it's inherently dangerous that you see these people just come flying around corners, or they go through intersections where there's a four-way stop or a stop sign in general. I would like to see more people, well, not more people, but more enforcement. Like, say somebody's sitting at an intersection during busy times of the morning. I take my son and his best friend who lives just off of Boyden to Maplewood Middle every morning. I make sure I stop because, you know what, it's a stop sign and I don't want to hit someone's child or get into an accident, but there's people just flying all over the place. So one of the things I would like to see is more presence at intersections where there are known stop signs and there are known accidents from people running the stop signs, to say, hey, you know what, slow down and stop. It's the law, it's the rule, you know, let's do that. So, but yeah, that was my comment. And the going back to the first part, how do I get involved with the CERT program? Is there a link somewhere? Is there someone that can email me or something?
Yeah, I will be in touch with you. We haven't set that up yet, but I will remember your interest in it and we'll get to you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all that I wanted to bring to the table.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsett.
Thank you.
I believe Miss Eustace had her hand up. If we could make space for her to speak at this time.
Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to introduce myself. I hope everyone can hear me. Okay. My name is Martha Eustace. I'm the township social worker and also a resident of Maplewood for over 20 years. I have the opportunity of working with the police department, health department, and the fire department to address any mental health needs to our residents in this town. Unfortunately, within the past few weeks and even months, we have seen an increase in robberies and thefts that have left individuals traumatized, and picking the pieces back up and essentially finding the strength to move on past those traumas. A lot of us have been fortunate not to have been the victim in situations like this and may not fully understand the stress and the fear that comes with it. For about 22 years, my family and I have heard stories of robberies occurring, but never experienced it ourselves, nor have we known someone close to us to have experienced it. Unfortunately, that took a drastic turn last week, January 4th, when one of our tenants, who's been with us for quite some time and who is a close family friend to us, experienced this traumatic experience, and I would not wish that upon anyone. What was supposed to be a regular day, evening following a routine turned into a nightmare for this individual along with our family. He was robbed at gunpoint and injured, and suffering from a concussion as a result. So we were all terrified by what took place, and I could not help but think this could have happened to any of us, my siblings, my elderly parents, and even myself, because I, sometimes wake up early in the morning to get to work on the weekends. So everyone is on edge, feeling paranoid, especially when parking in the driveway or even walking outdoors. It's very unsettling feeling. So I came on today to speak on a particular issue that has been concerning my family, my neighbors, and to express what a few of them have confided in me from both a personal experience, but also from the social work perspective as well. So as we all know, Maplewood is a town filled with businesses and housing. From the past few years, we have seen a significant development within the town. But in particular, the eastern part of Maplewood towards Springfield Avenue, Jacoby, the surrounding areas, Boyden Avenue, we have the Wawa that has been built, that has been here for quite some time now, about 6-7 years. And what we've noticed is that since opening up, myself, my family, our neighbors, we've experienced and even witnessed a number of different concerns, including the increased noise, trash being thrown in our backyards, individuals essentially looking for an opportunity to rob or steal a vehicle and inflict harm on them. So, as I mentioned, I collaborate with the police and fire department, and some of the statistics that I have been provided with shows an increase in a number of calls coming from Wawa on a daily basis. And the time frame for these calls typically happen overnight. Some of the calls involve overdose, theft, robbery, panhandling, verbal disputes, altercations, and many more. And I feel like with this increase in foot traffic and the Wawa being 24 hours, it is decreasing the quality of life for the surrounding neighborhoods. So the Jacoby, 44th Street, Chancellor, the surrounding area around Wawa. While it may not be a concern to individuals who do not live close by, but for those who do live right around the vicinity of Wawa, we are the ones who are suffering and feeling the effects of it, such as my family. So I was provided with stats from EMS. I do not have the police calls stat, but I do have EMS. And for 2022, there was a total of 49 EMS calls out to Wawa. And between 11 and 6 a.m., out of those 49 calls, 27 of them were between the hours of 11 and 6 a.m. compared to 2020, where it was a total number of 42 calls, but between 11 and 6, it was only 14 calls. So you can imagine from 2020 to 2022, those numbers, they almost doubled, they doubled. So essentially what I'm trying to get at is, it's not impossible to have Wawa closed by 10 or 11 p.m., which is what I'm hoping that the town would consider, and have them open back up at 6 a.m. But one thing that we do have to remember is that most of the Wawas that are in New Jersey are built on busy roads, such as Garden State Parkway, Route 22, the Turnpike, or even 109 in Elizabeth. This particular Wawa is placed in a suburban area. And while I understand Springfield Avenue is a county road, so it's kind of like the main street, there are homes surrounding it, including Chancellor, 44th, and Jacoby Street. Other areas have taken that initiative, including Roselle, and even in the Roselle area, they're located in a residential area just like us, and they close at 10 p.m. And even Philadelphia proposed a new, have implemented this idea where they're going to close their Wawa convenience stores by 10, 11 o'clock for some of these similar issues, the quality of life, the panhandling, the increase in robberies. So it's not impossible for us to do the same thing. From growing up here and listening to what many people have said in the past and currently, the eastern part of Maplewood is unfortunately often overlooked, ignored, and not heard, and it can get very frustrating at times, especially when it's something that's affecting us in our lives as well. I grew up in this town. I love Maplewood, and I know that the town values inclusiveness. Therefore, I feel like it's time for us to make that change and start listening to our side as well and acting on it too. As a result, I feel like it's necessary if we consider changing the hours of operation for Wawa. I know that it's a big sacrifice for everyone, for the town, but I also want you guys to also think about us too. I want you guys to put yourselves in our position. Like, how would you feel if you had a convenience store, a gas station in your backyard where you hear sirens all throughout the night or all throughout the day? It's not something that anyone would want. So I'm sure that everyone here has been made aware of this concern in the past. I know that certain people have brought this up in the past, but I feel like now is time to take action. And one of the ways that we can start this process is by either, having a group forum where individuals can come together to discuss the concerns and for the town to listen to what these individuals have to say. I know within this part of town, we have a lot of immigrants, Haitian families or Spanish speaking families, maybe providing them with translation services so that they can also feel included too, so that they can talk about their experiences and their concerns. That way we can be more proactive as a town to address this concern. So that's all I have to say about that. I think it's the topic that should be discussed and action should be taken, because within these past few years, there's been an increase in activity, and I feel like the reason for it is because of the Wawa.
Thank you for your concerns, Ms. Eustache. And I, as a resident of Jacoby Street myself, I can't feel any stronger than you about what's going on there. And I do hope that my colleagues on the township committee, and as well as our community, volunteers and participants, would be interested in having that conversation. If there's precedent, we're not remaking the wheel. We're not punishing this business for having themselves out in our community, providing a service, because I myself am at that Wawa fairly often throughout the week, as is my husband. But there are concerns that I would really love for us to address and make changes that need to be made. I am horrified and grateful for the stats you gave us, particularly for the EMS calls. In 2 years, it went up 30 calls at that same period. That just seems extreme. And I know this was COVID years, so there was a lot going on, but still, that's a large jump. We didn't see jumps like that in other areas during that same time period. So thank you, Ms. Eustache.
I'd like to just share our code. When we approve the 24-hour gas station at the convenience store, we put in here, you'll see 137, section 137-5 hours of operation. And it just, and look at B here, any gasoline service convenience store between 11 and 6 must have a security plan in place, pre-approved by the chief of police. Take all steps necessary about light and noise and comply with the township's noise ordinance. So we put things in here that would allow us to force them to be a good neighbor. And over the years, we have implemented that. And quite honestly, there have been better managers there in the beginning than now. And we had many meetings with the regional folks about this, and for some reason, it's just broken down, and I don't understand why. And I know Chief Duvall had conversations with the Wawa. I don't know if Chief Sally, if you were privy to those, but we need to sit down with them and just tell them what our expectations are. And if not, then there's a violation there. We can fine them. We can go back and change the ordinance.
Yeah, I think it's great that we have these things in our code, and it does give us leverage. Thank you for that. But we have had those conversations even during my tenure, and this goes way before that. And knowing how Wawas work, because the 76-year-old Energizer Bunny, otherwise known as my mother, manages one of these things also on the, right in a residential community, just like this Wawa that we have in our town. And they also experience similar issues. But management is a revolving door. So you might establish a great relationship with manager X for the next few months, and you see compliance and things are better. And then a year from now, or several months down the road, even earlier than that, there's a new manager. It is truly a revolving door. And sure, we can have a come to Jesus moment with them and say, hey, listen, if you don't take us seriously here and do something, we're going to reduce your hours. We're going to amend our code and we're going to do away with the 24-hour operation. And I think that that's something that we should really seriously consider as a governing body. I mean, I feel like our residents, our neighbors there have had too much. Enough is enough. And
Yes.
the property maintenance and the fines, Wawa don't care about no fines. They pay the fines. They got a lot of money.
I don't think we've ever fined them.
Well, I don't know.
That's the thing. I was gonna
I don't
ask
think
if
we've
we've
ever
ever
done
actually
it.
had a
And I don't
citation.
understand
Have they
why
ever
we
been
don't.
cited?
Yeah, I don't understand why we don't. And then you know, we have these other internal meetings. I mean, let's just be transparent. If we're going to be transparent, we got to do real talk. We have other meetings with our other departments at the township, and they tell us they don't know how to do the finding or they don't have enforcement power, and you know, and so on and so forth. And then legal gets involved, and no one wants to do anything about this. We have to do something about it. When is it going to be enough? Is it going to take someone dying over there? I mean, what is it going to take? We have a social worker who just gave us real talk. She told us what's going on over there. These are our people. These are our neighbors. So we really, really need to do more than just go to Wawa management and say, hey, I'm going to fine you if you don't stop doing that. That's just not going to work. Wawa doesn't care. It's too big. It's bigger than the management. It's a bigger issue. And the only way to combat the beast is to shorten their hours. And this is something that really we should consider. We need to balance the interests. Yes, commerce, but also public safety. Public safety always comes first.
And public health as well, Mayor. Honestly, the neighbors, in particular, the bank. I've talked to the manager of the bank a couple of times. And one of the biggest complaints he has is the fact that almost every morning his tellers have to empty the garbage can there because the garbage that travels from the parking lot of the Wawa crosses the street and ends up in his lot. And so his people have to clean their already space to just get prepared for their regular day of business. It's impacting neighborhood businesses as well as residents. So it's a bigger problem than that we have to address. And I would be happy to sit on that the committee and try to formulate an actual penalty schedule for things so that it actually, honestly, businesses, especially corporates, it doesn't become a concern for them until it really starts to hurt. And if it starts to be something that ends up being a financial or a PR nightmare for them, they'll change. And I would be 100% on board for that.
Well, I just think, you know, there's no one wedded to keeping Wawa open. If they need to be closed, they should be closed. But it's not just Wawa. We have other businesses that are open 24 hours. So you can't just pick Wawa. And we have, you can't just pick Wawa to close the gas. We have you have to change the ordinance. And I think we have to get a legal ruling whether or not you can you can do something after it's open. They opened on the basis of that ordinance. And can you go and change that ordinance? I don't know if it's legally possible. So we have to get that resolved.
All right. By the way, what other business is open 24 in Maplewood?
Well, it used to be the Maplewood Diner. And then there were some 7-Elevens that were open overnight.
Yeah, Quick Check.
Quick Check.
But Quick Check's not open 24.
They used
And
to be
neither is
open
that
overnight.
7-Eleven.
They used to be
Okay.
open.
And let me tell you, the diner ain't going to be open 24 if the Wawa's closed after midnight, right? So yeah, the diner stays open there. And they also complained to us about their public safety threats related to this business as well. So look, let's get a legal.
You know, you're an attorney. Can you, if someone's open 24 hours, can you then go and change the law to close them down?
If you could show public safety reasons like this, you betcha. You betcha.
Well, that's a punitive. I'm talking about a straight up ordinance that says that, you know, we don't have any 24-hour prohibition. So if you're going to start a 24-hour prohibition, does it affect the stores that are open now 24 hours?
I think yes, we should get further legal opinion from an
Yes.
attorney that practices in this area. But that can't be the stopgap. That
Right.
Then the next one is, then you're talking about the public safety concern. So that's a whole nother matter where you can bring someone to court and force them to close down because they aren't dealing with the public safety. But,
Right.
I don't think we should tell people that we're going to change the ordinance and then find out that we can't do that because it doesn't apply to people who are open already. So I think we need to get our information squared away before we kind of make promises as to what we're going to do. We need to know what our tools are.
Right. And can we also factor in the excessive calls? I mean, I think part of that ordinance, as far as like how you lose your 24-hour access, is if you have an excessive amount of calls or cause a significant impact in the crime, the aesthetics, the health and safety of a community or an area, and it's documented, then that's reason enough. That's the violations. That should be reason enough to actually be able to take that ordinance away, or take that access to that bit of the ordinance for their businesses away.
Yeah, I mean,
But yeah, we got to talk legal.
yeah, we will look at this, but as others have mentioned, and as I mentioned from my own personal experience, because of my own mother who works at one of these things, who manages one of these things, there is precedent for this. When issues like this arise at Wawas that are on the outskirts or on the perimeter of a residential neighborhood, even though those Wawas were previously 24 hours operations and they came in that way, the hours were reduced because of the unmitigated public safety issues and quality of life issues. They don't have to be public safety issues. They could be just, trash and broken glass and, noise and stuff that's just repeatedly unmitigated. So yes, we will talk. We're not making promises other than saying collectively that we will take this on, that we will work together to do what we can to solve this issue. That's the promise we're making. And I want to thank Ms. Eustache for her powerful personal testimony and her professional testimony tonight. That is really important. And thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
I think we have another
As a
person
part of-
who wants to speak.
Yeah.
So next up is John Sullivan.
Good evening, all. First of all, I want to let you know I've been listening to the meeting since it began. I was at my daughter's basketball game working at the scorer's table, actually the scoreboard, having my phone up to my ear listening to this. So I'm happy that the meeting lasted long enough for me to make a couple of comments. I'm not going to rehash many of the statements that have already been made. First of all, I do want to congratulate Chief Sally on his appointment and also the deputy chief on her appointment. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention or note the untimely passing of Chief Duvall. One thing that was brought up earlier was the police scanner. And as all of you on the call probably are aware, the Nixle and the police scanner were things that I've been very interested in and wanting to make sure that they were implemented and correctly. I believe, Mayor, you mentioned that the scanner is back online. However, the quality of the scanner, it reminds me of the old Charlie Brown commercial, that want, in that you cannot understand a word that is being said. There is so much feedback, and there is I don't know what the change was, but when it was last in place in operation, and I'm not sure, I think it was when Miss Barnett had the PC or whatever it was, a laptop brought to the police department, and it was crystal clear. Now you can hardly hear anything that's being said. And again, I hope that you are learning that communication is the key to your job, Chief Sally, and that as a community, we're relying upon you as the chief of the department to, protect us and keep us informed. So the Nixle and the police scanners are of the utmost importance. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Is there anyone else who'd like to make a public comment? Okay, it doesn't seem like there's in there. Chief Sally, while you're here, and I'd love to ask this question of you, and then maybe it's something we can address later on. Maybe we can meet later on and when I get back. But in your professional opinion, what is it that we can do? Or some areas that you maybe have heard from your officers of places where we can suggest or even require this business and businesses that are open 24 hours to do better, to help alleviate crime in our community.
Close early.
Close early.
Yeah, so we're constantly there, shoplifting, idling vehicles, fights. We spend a lot of time there. So it's my understanding that, since it's a 24-hour store, you're gonna have a lot of foot traffic at 1, 2 in the morning. And there's nowhere else to go. To my understanding, Irvington is pretty much shut down around that time. So people are looking for places to eat or whatever. And you're just gonna get a lot more people over there. And that late, a lot of things happen. So to me, it's the hours. And it's kind of like the only show in town.
Thank you. Yeah, I would love to sit down and as our mayor and as Mr. Lucas stated, to sit and really look at legal wise what we can do, what we can present, and even within our enforcement of ordinances, the whole fee schedule. I know a big corporation may not be afraid of the dollars, but the PR, that hurts. And I don't think there is a business out there that can take a hit in this economy. For people, especially a community that actually patronizes their establishment. They would want to do something to improve it. So thank you all for your input and your suggestions and your passion. I appreciate your honesty and everything. I do not know if we need to move into an executive session. Is there anything that my fellow members of the committee would like to offer up for executive?
I would like us to go in because you said before that he's doing some things which he can't make public, and I'd like to go into a further discussion on the tactics, and the Open Public Meetings Act does allow for us to go into close to talk about tactics and techniques that he would employ that if it was made public could jeopardize the operation.
Investigations. Okay.
So I would move that we go into close for purposes of discussing just what the law says, tactics and techniques that the chief is going to use.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Ms. Barnett, would you move us into a closed session and we will return to this public session to adjourn afterwards?
And no further action will be taken by the town. We need to vote.
No.
Yeah, we need to vote to go into closed.
Okay. So the motion on the floor to go into closed. Do we have a second?
I second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. So let's move into a closed session at this time.
Do I need to be here for this?
No.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Martha. Have a good night.
Thank you, Martha.
Good night.
Bye-bye. All right, I think everyone has cleared out the attendee room. So yes, Chief Sally, as Mr.